when I was younger, I would blame my mom, I would blame my dad. But now I'm in my 30s, and I think I got this realization actually when I was 23, when I graduated, that as much as our parents can influence our future, they're actually there to guide.
So you went to Nigeria?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
So I was in
And
Lagos.
how old were you?
I was
Like this?
14. The interesting thing about Nigeria is that I was in an environment that was new, that I could rebel. And it was supposed to be a place for punishment. And don't get me wrong, it was, but I had the upstanding hand. Two things, a British accent and currency. I remember my mum picking me up from the airport and she just cried. And it wasn't that I wasn't looked after, but I wasn't the same child that she sent to Nigeria. I got arrested a few times. I was very angry when I came back after 3 months of being back, not listening to my mum yet again. I got kicked out of my mum's house and ended up in the system. Although I was in the system, my mum was still carrying the job of the system because they forgot about me. However, I'm a big believer that God had a plan for me all along, and my parents always say that the way I turned my life around, that it can only be God.
Hello, welcome to Echoes of Our Community. My name is Margaret Taribo and I'm your host. This is a platform where we look at topics, we look at subjects that impact on us, things that, might be a bit, not so nice to hear at times, but we make it as real as possible. We bring in people that want to tell their stories, people that are real, people that say, you know what, this is the real deal, but it's also about change, how we can support, how we can challenge, how we can advocate for our communities. So we talk about young people, parents, professionals, community leaders, politics. It all comes up on this podcast. But today, even right now, I have a wonderful lady that I'd like you to meet. And you're going to be hearing a lot from her today. And I'm going to let her introduce herself, where she's from. And let's get it rolling. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please do like and share on Echoes of Our Community. Thank you. So I want to welcome Ebi.
Hi, Margaret.
You don't know how excited I am. How do you feel?
I am excited. I don't think I'm nervous because, like you said, you're the real of the real and you bring people who are part of the community. So to introduce myself, I'm Ebinehita Iyere. I'm the founder of Milk Honey Bees, but outside of that, I'm my dad's first child. I'm my mom's third daughter. I was born and raised in Lambeth, but moved to Southwark. I'm ingrained in the community. I'm Nigerian and I'm 33 years old.
You were born and raised in Lambeth, but mom and dad are from Nigeria. So how was that? Because I also want to hear about those stories about being Nigerian and then being born here. So you're British, but not British the way. What's that about?
So I think my upbringing is very interesting. I'm my mom's first child born in the UK, but I'm her third child, but I'm my dad's first child and first daughter. So that dynamic already, as you could imagine, my mom even tells the story of like where I'd be eating and she'd say, you have to finish your food. No juice, no water until you finish your food. And my dad will say, please give her water, please.
He spoiled you.
He spoiled me. He did. And I can stand on that. I am very much spoiled by my dad. But I think what's very interesting about my story and my upbringing is that my parents gave me everything I wanted. They told me that I could be everything and anything that I wanted. But I think that the influence of the area that I grew up in, peer pressure, but also not feeling secure in myself. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're young, you want to fit in with what's cool, but what's cool sometimes is negative.
Yeah.
And you don't know what it is until you feel it. So I grew up in a way that my parents tried their best. I went to a really good school and then my behavior just escalated to a point of no return and I got sent to Nigeria.
So it wasn't mom's fault, not dad's fault, but you just...
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I think that, you know, now I work with young people, but on a personal note, when I was younger, I would blame my mom, I would blame my dad. But now I'm in my 30s and I think I got this realization actually when I was 23, when I graduated, that as much as our parents can influence our future, they're actually there to guide. And the things that my mom and dad used to say then, when I turned 23, it was actually in front of me.
Wow.
Don't trust people, know your surroundings, behave better. Like I started to realize that actually if I had things might have been different. However, I'm a big believer that God had a plan for me all along. And my parents always say that the way I turned my life around, that it can only be God.
Oh, so you went to Nigeria?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
So I was in
and
Lagos.
How old were you?
I was 14 years old. I was in Lagos for a bit. And then my mom was like, oh, you're enjoying this too much. You seem to be having fun. So she sent me to Delta State. Yes.
Well, it was in the village.
It was the village. Yeah. I went to school in the village. And it was interesting. I think that my school taught me everything that I know. I rebelled in Nigeria, by the way. So it's very interesting. Again, my mom sent me to go and live with my grandma and my aunt. But I had an uncle that really spoiled me there as well. So I'm actually really surrounded by family that love me. I love my family to bits. But I think that the interesting thing about Nigeria is that I was in an environment that was new, that I could rebel. And it was supposed to be a place for punishment. And don't get me wrong, it was. But I had the upstanding hand. Two things, a British accent and currency. And so
you used it.
I didn't have to use it. Just by being me, it was inevitable. Teachers treated me different. The principal treated me different. And there was a few of us. So again, that's where now when parents are like, I'm going to send my child to Nigeria, I'm like, you're wasting your money. You're actually wasting your money because Nigeria is as developed as the UK now.
Exactly.
It's not when I was in Nigeria, they were still selling 5 Naira biscuit. Nigeria doesn't have 5 Naira biscuit anymore. Nah. It's not what it was. But what the school taught me is survival. And I will always, as much as it was painful then, the art of survival is something that I learned. And I think that those things, again, between my mom, my dad, and God, my life then and now, yeah, I'm very grateful for it.
Wow.
I'm grateful for my parents. I'm very apologetic for the things that I put them through. But I think through becoming the woman that I am today, through standing my ground, going back to uni, you know, when I came back from Nigeria, I got a place through like being in the council. My organization operates out of that same building that I got my keys from. So
let's not jump there. So when you came, how was it coming back? What made you come back? Tell me that story.
What made me come back? My grandma got a call one day from school from my head teacher, and the head teacher said, "Nah, we need to sort this out. She's just moving erratic. I can't control her." And my mom got on the phone to my head teacher, and I love that woman to bits. And she said, "Come and collect your child. It's time." Like, I've never seen a child kind of display so much anger, but so much joy at the same time. Like, and it was at that moment, I don't know, God touched my mom's heart and she said, send her back. And I remember my mom picking me up from the airport and she just cried. And it wasn't that I wasn't looked after, but I wasn't the same child that she sent to Nigeria. There's a lot of things that happened. You know, Nigeria is a place where women and girls' rights are not so appreciated and cherished. So there was things that happened that words can't even fathom the experience. And my mom could just see it. And I think that that's where my mom and mine relationship started to mend, because as much as I rebelled, she could see and feel my pain. And she spent a lot of time blaming herself. And I think that why I love my mom so much now is because I could have sat there and blamed her. But
she looked at it for herself and she took responsibility.
She took responsibility. And so did I. And I think that with any kind of relationship, whether it's parenting, whether it's a husband and wife, or even business, the ability for two people to take accountability allows you to move forward.
Yes.
It allows you to grow. Pain is always going to foster. There's always going to foster. Me and my mom, we clash. But at the same time, that's my best friend through it all, because she knows that the experiences that I experienced, as she explains it, she says, out of all my children, you were the one that gave me a headache. But of all my children, you're the one that know how to take paracetamol for that headache.
The paracetamol. And it worked.
And it works. And I think for me, that taught me the art of being strong, surviving. Like, you're going to be knocked down, you're going to go through things, and we don't all deserve the things that we go through, you know? But that pain is what kind of pushes me in every single day. And remembering that child that was very erratic, and, you know, I got humbled in a way that I never thought that life would humble me. So when I came back, as much as I wanted to do up, you know, I'm back. I wanted to show everybody that the cool girl still remained. Deep down, there was a lot of pain.
Did that get you into trouble here?
Yeah.
What kind of troubles?
I got arrested a few times. I was very angry when I came back. Again, I was trying to fit into a space that I didn't necessarily know if I was coming or going. I was just trying to fit in. And so after 3 months of being back and not listening to my mum yet again, I got, you know, kicked out of my mum's house and ended up in the system. But the unfortunate thing about me ending up in the system is that although I was in the system, my mum was still carrying the job of the system because they forgot about me.
Can you please explain that?
So I was 15 and I got put in an 18 plus hostel.
No.
Yeah. And they didn't give me looked after care status. They gave me estrangement.
What's that mean?
Meaning that I'm in conflict with my family. So I'm estranged from my family. But I wasn't necessarily estranged. I just had like bad behavior kind of thing. Like, family dynamics break down all the time. My family is not the first to experience it, and they won't be the last. And they put me in this hostel and left me. And from that hostel in Lambeth, a lot happened in terms of people that I was hanging around with. And so the council moved me to Peckham, which moving from Stockwell to Peckham is interesting within itself. And when I moved to Peckham, I was 17 and they forgot about me for 3 years. Yeah. I didn't hear from a social worker, a support worker, nothing. I didn't even know that rent was being paid. Like, every month, I wasn't paying anything.
17 to 20?
Yeah.
They left you in the system?
They left me in the system. The only reason why I knew that I had been a forgotten child in the system is because I had a leak in my property and it went all over my Nike tracksuits, and I was very angry. So I called the council. At first I called Southwark and they were like, "You're a Lambeth resident in a Southwark property." I called Lambeth and the amazing man on the phone was like, "Oh, why are you still in that property?" I said, "Huh?" He said, "Yeah, like, didn't you receive your bidding number? You know, like, you go from, you're supposed to get a bidding number." I was like,
you're now at your 20.
This is it. I was like, bidding number? Like, at this point, I was like, what is that? So he went through everything. I remember this call like it was yesterday. What was supposed to be like a 20-minute call to fix a leak ended up being a 2-hour call into the discovery that I was forgotten. So they put me in the system. But don't get me wrong, through that time, my parents were still there. I was not forgotten about by my parents. Thank God. And that's what I'm saying. Sometimes it's not about changing the person. It's actually about changing the environment.
Yeah.
The change of environment to Nigeria was definitely a shock to my system, so it wasn't going to work. But being out of my mother's house and still having the rules, so like every Saturday, I would go back home.
Okay.
I have to learn. I have to, you know, slice tomatoes. I have to slice
and then
onions,
you go back.
And then I go back. If my aunties are coming to the house, my mom doesn't care what I'm doing, come home. So I was still in the family kind of system. My dad was very active. My dad actually was begging me to go back into education. I'll never forget the day he called me and he said he's had enough. Go back to school, go back to any kind of college or education, or lose my surname.
Wow.
I've never gone to enroll in a college so quickly. I spoke to my best friend, and at the time we were described as those girls. But she was in college and I said to her, I need to do something. Like, my dad he's being very onto me at the moment. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to Morley College." I said, "I need to enroll." I went to Morley College, I enrolled. The interesting thing about my best friend is her life story. She needs to be on this, and she needs to be here too. Hers is, our stories meet in the middle, and I cherish her. My godson turned 13 on Saturday. And I'm just very proud that 13 years later, I can use him as a testament to where we're coming from. So she said, go and enroll. And I enrolled and I went to Morley College and I told my dad I'm there. After Morley College, I decided to go to uni.
Wow.
And even in that time, like I said, being forgotten about by a system that actually said to my parents, I'm going to safeguard you, but my parents still being the safeguarding, me still rebelling, there comes a point in time where you have to look at yourself.
Yes.
And when I looked at myself was when my godson was born.
Oh.
That boy saved my life because I was going through the changes of exiting friendships, and that's very difficult. So when young people say that it's hard to leave an environment, they're not lying. It's very hard. I was working. I've never not worked. At 18, I was working in the betting shop. I had rent to pay, you know? I've now moved out of this hostel that they put me in. I've got my flat, but they still set me up because they gave me a 2-bedroom.
Okay.
Why are you giving an 18 and 20-year-old a 2-bedroom flat? So I'm paying extra money because of bedroom tax.
Oh.
So I was working, doing all these things. And in that time, I'm trying to exit friendships. I'm trying to go to uni. I've got old police cases coming up. And when I say police cases, like nothing serious. It's like fighting or like pushing a security guard or it's literally petty nonsense. But again, when you don't have a fixed address and they're sending like court dates to my old address, but then I'm getting my new address, police turning up saying that I'm wanted. I'm like, how? I didn't know that I even had a court date. And then I go to court and they're saying, oh, you've got this outstanding fine. And I'm like, when did you give me a fine?
Exactly.
And then when they read out the address, I'm like, I haven't lived there.
So they got rid of that.
So they got rid of those. But all in all, when my godson was born, it was kind of like, wow, like you're here. And for the first 5 years, he wasn't my godson. He was just a baby that my closest friend had given birth to that I wanted to look after. More to protect myself. And I hope one day he watches this and he listens because this is kind of the realest place that I've ever spoken about him. Like, that kid saved my life. He saved my life because on the nights where I could have been out partying, I was there with him. You know, like he's precious to me. He made sure that I had a purpose. And I'm not saying that my parents didn't give me a purpose, but I had to use all of these different purposes. And now I'm seeing this little baby, like he was like tiny, this little baby now in my arms, but he's not my child. But I developed such a love for him that, yeah, I would take him off his mum and say, oh, please give me my boy kind of thing. And now 13 years later, I'm looking back and I'm like,
this is your boy, man.
This is my boy. He's almost my height. But he saved me. Because I always think back, my parents did all that they could.
But there needed to be something else.
Yeah.
And it's good that you realize that.
Yeah.
What if you hadn't, man?
I don't know what. And so I thank Rita all day long for having Caden. They are my reason why I stay strong. Because they know nothing beats what they know. Living on the 4th floor, not having carpet, but teaching this kid how to walk, teaching this kid how to count, you know, in the midst of friends that didn't believe that I could finish uni, in the midst of people that, because they were so used to...
They were used to that kind of life, and then you wanted to move out of it into something, and they didn't want that.
They didn't.
And they'll fight you for that.
This is it. But the only 2 people that did was the mother of a boy who couldn't even speak because he was so young. Like, I would come to their house and he's running towards me and I'm thinking, everybody else doesn't see joy in me. Everybody else sees something that you don't see. And it was through growing up with Caden and growing with and looking after Caden that the voice of my parents really started to shine through. Because through Rita, I started to see how motherhood is not easy. So if my best friend is going through this, what was my mom going through? I started to see how fathers, as great as mine was, sometimes they do make mistakes.
They do.
Yeah. I started to see how 2 people can have children and not stay together, but create the best bond. I started to see my family.
Mm.
And I've never really spoken about this because I have never given a platform to talk about the realness. But I think that the thing that's special about my life is that the family that God put me in will always, always love and cherish me. But the family that God allowed me to cultivate outside of that has done the same thing for me and given me the purpose to just be.
Just be.
Just be.
I just love that. Just be. And so you went to what did you study?
I studied criminology and youth studies only because when I was looking at the courses,
that sounded
that was the only
and
word
especially with the police.
Exactly. That was the only thing. Like I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm looking at the courses. I'm thinking, oh, this one doesn't look like it's for me. So I saw criminology and youth studies. And obviously at the time, my life kind of was, I was
You were a baddie, man.
Do you get it? So I went to uni and my dad was at uni and he's always been at uni. And, my dad, when I would ask for a new school bag when I was younger, he'd say, oh, I used to take my books to uni in a summer-filled bag. I'm like, that's you. I want a new school bag. So on the first day of uni, after uni, I remember I got the train back and I said I wanted to go to London Bridge and I just wanted to walk. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I loved it. When I got to uni, I've always loved education, but uni was the first place that really I felt like saw me. Like, what do you mean you're asking me what I think about something?
Wow.
You're not just telling me what I should know. Uni gave me the space to kind of express. So I got through my first year and it was amazing. And then my second year of uni, a lot happened. Second year was interesting, but it was the start of a journey that I never knew would bring me to where I am today, in all honesty. So in second year, I was doing a module called Girls and Gangs. And my teacher at the time, she was doing the lecture and I'm listening. I'm really, really listening. And then she put my friend's picture up. And I'm listening to what she's saying and I'm looking at the picture and I'm like, what do you know? You don't know a thing.
You don't know a thing.
So in true Ebby fashion, as you know, I've said, you can't talk about my friend like that in the whole lecture.
I trust you. I can picture you. I can truly picture you.
You can't talk about my friend like that. And then I've just remembered, oh man, you can't do that, Ebby. You can't do that. So for the whole lecture, I just put my head down and I was crying. And she went on delivering. And I was crying. And she came to me. She's like, why are you crying? I said, because you're going to go and talk to like the principal. I'm going to get kicked out. And she said, where's all of this coming from? I said, it's the story of my life. She said, no, this is uni. You're allowed to challenge and express. She said, but this is my lecture room. If you want to express, just express be guided. I said, no, fine. So you're not going to tell the head teacher. She was like, no, you didn't do anything wrong. She was like, let's walk and talk. So we was talking, I was telling her about like where I was coming from and my area and everything like that. And she said, I think I've got an opportunity for you. And I said, okay, an opportunity, okay. And she said, oh, I'm doing a consultation with the Home Office on Girls and Gangs. And I really think that you should apply to be one of the young people on the panel. And I was like, okay, didn't know any of this. I applied. 2 days later, I get an email back saying, we'd love to have you. That's how my journey started.
Wow.
One woman who didn't take my expression
as like, because some people can feel so insecure.
She didn't feel she didn't feel insecure.
She could have even told you to get off the class.
This is it. She didn't do that. She loved what I had to say. I think lecture finished. I was in her room for like a good hour after that, just kind of like talking to her about this word gang, because she's part of the reason why the definition was so vague. So I did the consultation with the Home Office and after that went back to her room and did her lectures and just fell in love with her understanding of the difference between lived experience and what the books have to say or what the system has to say. So really worked with her on a few things. But then one of my closest friends was killed and I went mute because in a split of a second, my life went from this to this. And I went mute because after he was killed by somebody that I went to school with. So that was also difficult to navigate. being in the middle of like two different areas. But the thing about him that was special is that he's one of the only people that when I said I was going to uni, said, you've got this.
Wow.
So imagine losing someone that, as annoying, because I'm a bit annoying, as annoying as I was, I'd call him and be like, oh, I did this at uni today and I did this. Bearing in mind, this is somebody who was living life that he probably maybe shouldn't have been. But he would sit there on the phone and listen to me talk about, oh, what I learned and how I challenged this. And I got a distinction in my essay and I'm reading, this book. And he always used to say, Ebbs, just push through, push through. So when I got the news that he was killed, I remember I was in my house and I just fell to my knees. I felt my life was over because yet again, I've lost a friend. It's not my first one, but it's my closest one.
And then the person that killed him was somebody you knew as well.
Somebody I knew. So it's like I'm in a simulation at this point. I don't really get it. But you know what? Between him dying, my godson being given this opportunity, again, something sparked in me to just keep going. But the going that I experienced, and now that I have the language, and I only have the language now because of what I do. And this is why I'm all for making language accessible.
And that's one of the reasons why I love you. You know that, don't you? It's about the language. Because when I hear you speak and the way you articulate, I say, yes, she's got it.
Yeah, we don't need to use big words.
I know. But it's just like saying those things and not being afraid and being bold is one of the things I really appreciate about you, truly.
I can say I was high functioning depressed when I was in second year for 3 reasons. I had to finish it. Remember, I went to uni because my dad said,
you lose his name.
You lose his name. I went to uni because my parents were at a place where it's like, they've tried everything. You have to do something now. That's why I went. I've now got that pressure on me. I'm dealing with the fact that when my mates are using student finance to like go out and buy things, I'm paying for a 2-bedroom flat. But then now my friend's just been killed. So I'm high functioning at this point. I'm doing. I've also got the fact that I want to work with children and young people, but based on my past, I've got minor things on my DBS. So I'm now over volunteering to make sure that I've got the experience. And then I just crash. Didn't know if I was going to make it into 3rd year or not, but by a push of God, I made it. 3rd year was interesting because that's when I started building the connections more for the work. I was doing a lot more public speaking, was challenging my uni lecturers a lot more. So that's where like the whole lived experience stuff kind of really started. And I didn't know that I'd be sitting here today to rebel against it, because if I could go back, half of the stuff that I did, I wouldn't do. Because a lot of people use our stories to gain and to benefit.
Exactly.
But they don't actually cherish it.
No.
You're using my story as a way to get funding. You're using my story as a way to build your case study, but you're not using my story to create change for any betterment. So 3rd year, I'm pushing through, have to write my dissertation. I get a job as a youth worker in A&E. But the only reason I got that job is because I went out one night and Brixton McDonald's at the time was very vibrant in the night. If you know about Brixton McDonald's, it's a very vibrant place. And some lady punched me unprovoked. And I had a choice. I could have punched her back.
I know you.
But I didn't. I became the victim in that situation. And I had to report that to the police. And I'm sitting in my job at Ladbrokes with this like plaster over my head. And I get a call one day and I'm very bored in this betting shop at this point. I'm in 3rd year uni. I need something better for myself, but I'm pushing through. I get a call from a guy who's like, oh, I'm from the A&E service. There's a youth service that helps victims that have been affected by violence. And I was like, oh, it's not that deep kind of thing. Like, I'm good. But I want to know what you do because I want this. And this guy said, oh, tell me about what you're doing. So again, like, I end up having like an hour conversation with him about what I want to do. I think a few days later, I go and meet him at King's College. He gives me a book about trauma. And he introduces me to somebody else, and then I get the job. So I'm an A&E youth worker now. I've resigned from the betting shop. I'm going to uni. I'm doing this work. I'm loving it.
So you're getting on that pathway now?
I'm getting on the pathway. And as I'm on that pathway, I'm working in the community in Lambeth. I'm on Angeltown Estate. I'm in Tulse Hill. I'm working with the IAG in Brixton. I'm doing. And then life hits me again. Summer 2016. What a summer. I think about summer 2016 almost every day, because without summer 2016, we probably wouldn't know each other, in all honesty. Summer 2016 is when things really changed. 2016 was an interesting year for me within itself. We lost 3 young people in almost the space of like 3 months. But there was one young man that was killed in Peckham, and I was sleeping the day he died. I used to do a lot of like responses to kind of like help dispatch young people and crowds and all of that day. I was tired. I was sleeping that day, and I woke up to about 25 missed calls. And the only message I replied to was a lady called Nikki. And she said, "Ebby, do not go on WhatsApp. Do not open your WhatsApp. There's been an incident in Peckham and a young man has been killed." That young man was killed 3 months after his best friend was killed. I have to return to work. The community is distraught. I return to work, and there's a documentary that is aired called Gangland. This documentary is aired, and there's children on this documentary. Children talking about their experiences. And there's a girl on this documentary that everybody is like, "Ebby, that's basically like you. We need you to go and like help her." And I said, "I don't want to work with no girls," because I didn't work with girls. I only worked with boys. And I loved working with boys because most of the people that I looked after growing up were boys. You know, I had my girls, but we were the nurturers of the boys. And that's why I always say that when the system talks about what goes on in the community, they forget certain roles. They hyperfixate on the negative boy and the victimized girl, but they don't think about the people in the middle. So they don't think about the people who are supporting those girls or supporting those boys. They don't think about the lost children who are on estates, who have to witness things. They don't think about anything other than things they can get funding for. And I know this now because I work in the system. So one day I messaged this girl and I'm like, "Hi, I hope you're okay." I messaged her on Instagram because I didn't have her number. "I hope you're okay. This is kind of what I've experienced before. If you ever need to talk, I'm here." Bearing in mind, I didn't want to work with girls, so I was really hoping that she didn't reply. I just did it so that people would kind of get off my back. And she replied. I was thinking, oh shit, now I've got to like, you know. And through our conversations, I'd check on her and I actually started to care. So one day I said, "You know what, we've been talking so much, like, you want to meet me?" And she said, "Yeah, why not?" I didn't know what to do with her. I ain't worked with no girl before. I was going to do my hair though, because you know, normally I have braids. I was going to do my hair. So I said, "Oh, come and meet me and you can get your hair done." And she was like, "Oh, that would be great." And that was like the start of kind of the stitch braid era.
And so this is where Milk Honeybee started?
I would say kind of. Our relationship before Milk Honeybees, this kid healed me.
Watch out for a part 2, and you're going to hear about how did this story link to what Ebby is doing right now. You cannot afford to miss this. This is Echoes of Our Community. And please share, like and subscribe. And you know what? You're going to be glad you did. I'll see you next time on Echoes of Our Community. Thank you.